mean, next there'll be, accessible avatars that let you recreate the deformations you've suffered.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a recording going.
Yep.
I was in a bad place. I'm now in a better place, but that place still, a better place than hell is not heaven. So, I'm just stuck on the user model still. And I wanted to run through the model as I've got it, and just check that it still fits with everything you sort of think about for the future. I know that we just need a very simple version going for the stuff you want to do. I'm sorry this is delaying us. It's just very fundamental to the way that Artifact works. And I'm nervous about fucking this bit up because changing it is like redoing.
Okay.
Basically redoing how apps and users interact, and that's a significant waste of time.
Yep.
I also, just to cover, I reviewed some of the old documents we made from the company formerly known as Interbit, from pure memory, because that's how I do things.
Yeah.
And
that's great. I don't have any copies of that either. Yeah.
No, but I have a great memory, and it's very selective at times. Anyway, beside the point, the position that identity held in the ecosystem that we'd envisaged was fundamental, and being able to model that accurately in this new system is kind of the key to. It bundles up like self-sovereignty and billing and kind of every single feature is touched on by this feature. So how the model's set out is that I'm going to try and do something in my explanation that is hard for me to do, that is something that I think that you should do with your explanations too, and that is to not tell you all the things that went wrong to cause me to get to the thing that I think is right, and just focus on explaining the thing that I think is right.
Okay. Let's roll with that, yeah.
So I think that inside of Artifact, the GitHub authentication provider is an independent service that anyone else can run as well, and it follows the same interface as what a KYC provider would do, as well as a public key infrastructure provider would do. So it's about defining it as a very, very simple interface that allows it to, in effect, issue a token when a user passes the OAuth loop with GitHub, so that the user can go around and present that token to say that according to this specific chain over here, I am authorized to use GitHub. And that's sort of the start of that. I don't know what it's called, but it's a technique where within an ecosystem you can allow people to see little bits of information about you, but without handing over the whole thing. So like, we don't need to hand over the GitHub username, the GitHub personal access token, we don't need
right, yeah, it's a pretty standard,
and
model, isn't it?
And whilst it's a seemingly minor difference between getting anyone else's app in here to do their own GitHub OAuth loop and us doing it this way, it represents the start of a fundamental shift in how user information is treated, because it's that shift towards, if you're an app, you don't need to know the KYC documents. You don't need to know the GitHub username. You only need to know that an entity that is putting its hand up to take the flak if what it says is false has approved this.
Right.
this
You're passing off the authority of authenticity.
Right.
To another.
Right.
Yeah.
And that means that the apps can get going quicker because they don't have to do all this crap, and that later we can build that service out to be actually governmentally compliant, giving KYC, but it's still the user that's in control of that critical information. All these apps just know how to take someone's word for it and pass on the blame for a fee. So
yeah.
Okay.
Precisely.
Yep. And then I've started treating Howl as just another app instead of something that is fundamental to the system. Howl is just, it's an app that got installed on Artifact, and
Okay, go on.
because there doesn't actually need to be any. There's no AI in Artifact, as it turns out. Artifact knows how to call AI, but Artifact is not.
Yeah, that's right. I've got some thoughts. At what point do you want to go through all this? A couple of thoughts on that.
You can, as we go would be best.
Okay.
Otherwise, I might run off.
So the way I'm looking at HAL is number one. Every user has their own HAL.
Right.
If you boil it down, HAL is actually a session prompt with additional data, previous session scripts from interacting with Dave, and so it's static. So HAL doesn't really manifest until you take that session prompt and that data, and then apply it to a model, and then HAL comes to the thing. So HAL's not really an app. HAL essentially is in deep store as files for most of the time.
Right. In this model, there is only one HAL, and each user forks a copy of it, and that's their personal version.
So is there like a prototypical HAL? You fork that.
There's a published HAL, which is what we publish. And then every new user that comes on the scene is recognized by HAL as a fork or a branch of that base thing.
So we've got a bootstrap HAL, and then the user should be able to alter HAL's session prompt.
Correct, but that is not considered making a new HAL. The model I got now that's just par for the course. That's just what using HAL is.
Yes.
Right.
So at runtime, the user is talking to there's a chain from the prototypical HAL to any changes they've made to all the data that's been accrued by interaction, and that's your HAL.
Right. And then when we publish new versions of this, it can normally auto update, or you can choose to not have that happen. You can disconnect from that original HAL and take your HAL with you.
Yeah, or you could lobotomize HAL and like wipe out your session prompt.
Right. Yeah, you can do terrible things. So I have made the mechanics of making HAL able to reset his system prompt, and I've done that by just making a single file in the root of the repo that just names the help that will be invoked whenever a new prompt comes in, and by rewriting that to be one of the other help files, the next time it runs, it will point or engage a different help file than what it did previously.
Okay, let's unpack that. So to roll back about 90 seconds, you're talking about system prompt. I'm talking about session prompts. Is that essentially the same thing?
Sysprompt is the same thing. It's the system prompt that goes into the OpenAI chat. Yeah.
Okay. I'm defining that as session prompt, but we should get that.
OpenAI calls it system prompt.
Okay. I will.
So there.
Start from replace. I will start from replace. Okay. The second thing. Can you go through what you're saying about helps there?
So there needs to be some kind of a format by which to ingest system prompts to be both used as the HAL that talks to the user and as agents that run off and do things, where doing things can involve calling on and creating new agents. And so a help is that piece of NL programming.
Yes. Okay. So the help in that case would be system prompt and any additional information, for example, example outputs.
Yeah.
Wrap that up.
The temperature
files.
setting.
Yeah. All that good stuff that's been tested before and seems to be helpful.
Yep.
And they exist as files that can be called at any point.
Yep.
HAL is there's no, well, in my head there's no difference between HAL and any other bot, but also, interesting enough, Dave is effectively, on a par with an AI, because in terms of interaction.
Yeah, in terms of the mechanics, Dave is no different.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way that HAL works is that when a new user comes on the scene, a user that HAL has never seen before, it interacts with HAL to create a new user branch, which is now that user's dedicated branch for HAL. And then that branch can't do very much because the branch is used to start sessions. And so the user can start arbitrarily many sessions as that user with HAL, and that means that you can have multiple browser tabs open, having different conversations, doing different things. Some of those sessions may be started automatically, so by HAL itself may have started a new session on your behalf and start doing something autonomously. You should be able to, with permission, connect up to another user's session with HAL and both have a shared session with HAL. The billing arrangement is user pays. So whatever the user that was created for HAL, that's the billing, the cost center in a way. That's where all the bills have to be paid.
Yes, but also the user is the one that's causing work to be done. So if HAL on the user's behalf then commissions another bot.
Yeah.
All of that goes back to the user because he's the one asking.
That's right. That's how the billing is done.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this exact same model for HAL, I'm using the same model for the CRM. So the CRM is the standalone app. When a new user comes in, it will make a new branch for that user, and let's assume that that's the admin user who's creating a brand new installation. And then that brand new installation allows staff members to come in as users and start creating sessions, just like it did with HAL, and then interacting with the CRM, which may or may not have its own interaction with the help network. And lastly, HAL should be able to do things inside the CRM on your behalf or inside any other app, including these identity providers. HAL should basically look like what the Rabbit app, the Rabbit tool, was supposed to be. HAL is intended to have access to every capability that's available in Artifact, HAL should be able to know how to drive it on your behalf. And so as a user, you might install or create accounts with multiple different apps in the ecosystem. HAL would be able to read all that for you, as well as install apps, uninstall apps, invoke them, read the data, all those things.
Can I just check what your definition of app is? Because we might be going out of sync here. So, HAL is not an app. HAL is a bot. The bot being consisting of a couple files that at runtime gives you an interface. It can commission other bots and so on.
Right.
The apps are the third panel, the jitters that you require. But being jitters, they are built and then discarded on the fly, and so there's no.
Fuck. Okay. That is dissonance. There needs to be some sort of an entity that provides the base functionality that allows you this ability to make a user account or a fork that's just that user, and then let you make sessions. Now, using jitters for the CRM has a list of customers in it. And so that's not a jitter. That's a foundational that's a permanent thing. It's consistent.
That's a store of data, like a file or.
It also comes with a collection of isolates, which are baked code that can be executed, and it will most likely have a collection of natural language programs or helps that are specifically dedicated to it and the things that you can do with it.
Yeah.
Right?
So
now, I'm very sorry. I'm going to have to run in like 5 minutes.
Man. All right. Do you want to cover other things? There's.
That was it, really. That was it. This is the discussion I wanted to have, right? So, it's there has been. I've worked really hard through a bunch of other alternatives. None of them were better than the one I'm presenting to you, but there is a strong dissonance or hole in the model about the lack of jitters in the system.
Yeah, would it help if I hammer out my current working definitions of the atomic items that we've got? I can send that over and see if it works in this.
Yeah, maybe, maybe not. The thing is, I'm like, you may not think it from my rate of progress, but I am pretty desperate to just get you something that's just good enough to do the first to get you out of copy paste hell.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can just verbally reconcile on this distinction between a jitter and HAL and the CRM, all these permanent things, that would sort of, logically speaking, this model fits for my logic needs, and it fits from the historical thinking around an ecosystem and different services that get consumed and all that. But it doesn't quite fit with, as you say, jitters.
Yeah. Okay.
So any way you want to help plug that hole, I'm open to. But
cool. So I'll look at the HAL side. The rest looks perfectly reasonable.
The service providers, right? Like and so they have a store of private data, like the KYC repo.
Right. And all you're asking for is, is this?
Am I over 18?
Yeah. David's or HAL on behalf of David. David's asked for this. Can he do this?
Yeah.
You don't need to know anything else.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so with that simple model as our starter, it expands to a lot of the things we want, whilst maintaining a marketplace of services, whilst stopping data loss, whilst giving users control so that they only got to enter their data once, get KYC'd once, and then they have access to like tens of apps that need that information and they never have to do it again.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Right, I'll work on that. I'll get something over just to help the next conversation so we can sync up.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Just in your last minute or so, incidentally, Rabbit has did it. It wasn't a keynote. It was another one of these stand-ups with the guy. Are working. They're saying it's very early days yet, but what they described was jitters. And they're saying it's very early days. We're a good year out or so.
Fuck.
But yeah.
Fuck. Okay, well, send me that link, please. I'll review that, and then
yeah.
Fuck.
It was real sketchy.
I'm starting to get that awkward feeling of we haven't gone fast enough.
Well, we're ahead of these guys for sure.
Yeah, being ahead of fucking a bunch. Right. That doesn't make you first. It's being ahead of someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I'll send you that, and I'll put some thought into desyncing. Sorry, this was so short.
That's so good.
Let's do a longer session tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm online, and I'll see what time you got. But other than that, I'll see you tomorrow. The CRM is the key anchor point that I've been using as like our use cases must support that, and that has once again proven a very useful first app to keep us grounded in the real world. So I am pleased with how that's working out. But
it's something for tomorrow, but I'm very keen to get some tracer bullets through the CRM.
Yeah.
Instead of just inventing.
Well, that's the first. Stuff. That's our first payday. That's our first useful thing. That's the first demonstration. Yeah. All that, and it's real users that pay money. That's the thing to get done. So
yeah, because I'm just doing test scenarios at the moment. Very, very briefly. So I've had to unwind a bit. Originally I was thinking to build bots that go up from a blank sheet to QuickBot, JudgeBot, and so on. We were going into some weirdness, some vast hallucinations quite quickly, probably because it was amplifying it. So I've rewound a bit in that I'm going to write. I'm going to stoke prime it by giving it session prompts manually. And then get back on the same cycle. I think it was probably a bit ambitious thinking you could do it from a blank sheet of paper. They couldn't. So let's get session prompts written and then put in.
I still believe in that approach, and I think that if we were to supply, for example, a large document that had previous successful session prompts in it as part of the reference material.
Yeah. What I could do is manually create those instances of successful session prompts.
Or just copy the Fabric docs and be like, here are examples of working prompts, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Do all that.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. All right, buddy.
See you, man. I'll see you later. Tomorrow. Yeah. Or later on today if you've got time.
If I've got time, yeah. Okay, bud.
Yeah. See you, man.
See you.